Ladies and gentlemen, the life expectancy in the US is down for the second year in a row. Now, there are two factors that are playing into this. One is the pandemic, the other one is opioid overdose, which is going through the roof in America. Now, you already knew it was pushed in the background before, it's pushed in the background even further, but it is a very significant amount of deaths that are going on every day with that. So, despite the availability of life-saving, measures that they can take today, so many people have died for 2 years in a row in the U.S. The nation's life expectancy dropped for a second year in a row last year, according to a new analysis. So, the analysis of provisional government statistics found U.S. life expectancy fell by just under a half a year in 2021, adding a dramatic plummet in life expectancy that occurred in 2020. Public health experts had hoped that, things would get better over the next 2 years from 2020 to now, but it didn't. It didn't. The finding that issued, we had a horrible loss of life in 2021 that actually drove the life expectancy even lower than it was in 2020 is very disturbing. This is according to Dr. Stephen Wolf, professor of population health and health equity at Virginia Commonwealth University, who helped conduct the analysis. It speaks to an extensive loss of life during 2021. Many of the deaths occurred in people in the prime of their lives, Wolf says, and drove the overall U.S. life expectancy fall to 76.6 years, the lowest in at least 25 years. Shame on the U.S. This is according to Nordine Goldman, a demographer at the University of Princeton, who wasn't involved in the research. It continues to boggle the mind how poorly we've come through this pandemic. I find that disgraceful. Yeah, the US is last in the world. That's why they got all of that out of the media. See, they act like if they pull that out and you don't hear about it every day, then you think it's not going on. It is. America has never done well through this entire thing. Every nation, can you imagine that? Here you call yourself a superpower, but every nation on the planet is doing better than you in handling this whole thing. Yeah, I guess you did take that out of the news, as if many of us can't remember. Okay. The 2021 drop came after the US life expectancy plummeted in 2020, tumbling by almost 2 years, the biggest 1 year fall in US life expectancy since at least World War II. The motivation for this study was to determine whether the horrible drop in life expectancy that we documented in 2020 resolved or rebounded in 2021, or whether there was a continued decline. Unfortunately, we did not find good news, Wolf told NPR in an interview. Surprisingly, while the 2020 drop in life expectancy hit, of course, they got to always throw us in there, the Black and Hispanic community. And here's my thing: if we are getting hit the worst, then why are you not funding the community to make it better? But see, y'all will gladly point it out, but you don't do anything about it. See, this is where y'all should be funding us then to help fight it, but you don't. You don't fund us like you're funding those Ukrainians, just pouring the money. Just the money is just flowing everywhere over there, right? So, life expectancy among Hispanics didn't significantly change between 2020 and 2021. Life expectancy is, they said, it just inched up slightly in among blacks by a little less than half. In contrast, the life expectancy of whites fell by about a third of a year, mostly among white men. So that's telling us that this continued decline in life expectancy that we see in the second year has carried mainly deaths in the white population, Wolf said. So the white population over the last 2 years got hit the hardest in deaths. But what have they been on the news saying over and over and over for the last 2 years? They said we were the ones getting hit the hardest. Weren't they saying that? I guess we're supposed to not remember that too, right? Well, that's not what they're saying in this article. They said over the past 2 years, the white community got hit the hardest. Mm, mm, mm. All right. I mean, we're not surprised that you have, you know, gone above and beyond to make sure it's not you that we hear about in the news, but everybody else. Please. It's unclear why this happened, but Wolf and others think it may be due in part to whites being more likely to live in states with fewer restrictions. So they let down their guard more while often you know, refusing a lot of things that I can't talk about. So the deaths occurred in 2020 were a product not only of a lack of that thing we can't talk about, which was a huge factor, which to me, that isn't that an admission that you're the ones dying the most? That's an admission. Uh-huh. So that's what they're saying. Interesting. Interesting. So, wow. So, a lack of the thing we can't talk about, which was a huge factor. So that means they are the ones dropping the most. Y'all don't tell the truth about nothing. So, um, also being in places that didn't observe policies, they're saying is the cause of why it hit the white community the hardest. But see, my thing is, wasn't the life expectancy already hitting them hard before? Because I mean, even in the beginning of the Trump administration, it had came out about their drop in population, right? So it happened long before these past 2 years. All right, because 2020 dropped in life expectancy, um, they're saying that Hispanics lost almost 4 years and the black community almost lost three. So we lost shy of 3 years in life expectancy. But wow, that's huge. The Hispanics lost 4 years. Wow. And compared to less than two for whites. All right. So in 2021, the drop also widened the gap in life expectancy between the US and other wealthy countries, the analysis found. That was due primarily to, the researchers said in that thing that we can't talk about. So life expectancy only dropped about a half a year in 2020 in places like England, France, and Germany, and then actually increased by a third in 2021, according to the analysis. So the gap between the US and those countries grew more than 3 years from 2019 to more than 5 years in 2021. So the US is falling behind other developed nations. They're falling far behind those nations. This high IQ nation is falling behind. So researchers say that part of that is fewer restrictions, and it resulted in the much higher death tolls. The prevalence of other health problems like diabetes and obesity also played a role, they said. We spent a fortune on medical care, and we're a high income country. We should be able to do far better, Goldman said. But you're not. But you're not. And that just goes to show you, it proves another thing. Just because you're a nation and you may have all the stolen money, because that's what it is, you got all the stolen money, it doesn't mean you're going to do the best in healthcare. In fact, America does horrible in healthcare, but they keep jacking up the prices and making you pay more as if they're giving you the services that you deserve. And we know for a fact you don't give us the service that we deserve. But ladies and gentlemen, please tell me what you think about this story. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.